Thank you, Shepard. Well, ahead of the president's addressing the nation tonight, the sheriff who has a message for the president today.
You're the only singular person in this entire country that can advance or adopt meaningful immigration reform. By that very definition, then, it is your singular failure alone as to why we do not yet have reform, why America continues to be at risk, and new crimes and new victims are mounting each and every day in every single state.
Say what you will about how that video was cut, the sound on that video, all of that. Well, it's gone viral, everybody, everywhere. The sheriff tells us why he did it here and only here. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. And Sacramento Sheriff Scott Jones says he just wanted to make a few things clear. What the president is about to do tonight, freezing deportations for millions of illegals, doesn't only create a mess, it ignores an even bigger mess. The sheriff with me now to explain. Sheriff, you know, we watched that. We were all watching it here. And the more we watched it, the more we were like, whoa, whoa. What were you trying to do?
There was a couple of things I was trying to do, and thanks for having me on, Neil. The first thing was obviously to make a direct appeal to the president and not shun his responsibility, and recognizing, of course, Congress has a lot of blame for this, but he is a singular person. There are many things that he can do as an individual, the only one. The second thing, recognizing that may not have the desired result, is to perhaps start a bit of a movement, or at least give a voice for folks who feel the same way but don't necessarily have the same platform.
But your platform was what? What you were trying to say was that just freezing deportations for millions of illegals won't cut it. You're ignoring something bigger. What were you getting at?
Well, the problem is you're not, this deferred action is deferring the crisis. It does nothing to make America safe. It does nothing for comprehensive immigration reform, and frankly, it's divisive. So you're qualitatively deciding that a certain group of these undocumented population has greater value or is in somehow a higher standing, which pushes the rest of the 12 million undocumented folks back into the shadows. And comprehensive immigration reform has to involve a discussion of all 12 million. And no matter what venue or eventual pathway to immigration reform we do, to be successful has to start with securing the borders. So what possible reason could there be for not starting that now, not doing that now and saying, let's discuss this, but first, as we're doing that, as we're figuring out what we're going to do, we need to secure our borders to make anything work, including the amnesty program that he's contemplating today. You
know, the president has argued that he's waited for Republicans to do just what you're saying, that he's offered border protection and they thumb their noses at it. I know you try assiduously to avoid getting political. I mean, you rep Republicans too in your open appeal today. But what do you make of that? That no matter how much the other side, let's say the president is going after and promising border security, you want to see it. And when you say that, what do you want to see specifically?
Well, there's a couple of things, and clearly Congress is to blame, and I wanted this to be an apolitical appeal. Congress has blame, but they're a body. They're not an individual. So when you look at individual responsibility, and not as a group, such as Congress, House Republicans, or Senate Democrats, the president can do a number of things. Number one, he can, and what we expect him to do, is flex his political muscle to ensure that that's a priority by simply saying, I'm not going to do anything else until I get a viable, comprehensive, sustainable immigration reform bill from Congress.
So you don't just believe him that he has offered that and Republicans have rejected that or just glossed over that? You just don't think that's happened?
The stated reason for waiting until after midterm elections just demonstrates to me, and I think to many Americans, that it is a political maneuver. And the other thing he can do, frankly, is he's solely responsible for the hands-off policy that exists in Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection and ICE. They need to be allowed to do their job. They need to have the staff and resources to do it. And they need to have the direction that they're going to take the enforcement actions on the laws that already exist instead of being hands-off. Only he can do that, and he's not doing that. So that can have an effect on securing our borders without any physical barrier. That could certainly start and set the tone for securing the borders. He can do that as an individual person.
Did you have any idea, Sheriff, that you'd set off like a YouTube sensation here?
Well, I didn't fully appreciate the extent to which it would go viral, and frankly, I thought it would be popular. I knew it would make local news, but candidly, I think I am speaking for folks across this country that are frustrated and don't feel like they have a venue, and that's why in the video I invited folks to kind of make their own video. I'm just one guy. I'm one person's voice, and although I'm lucky enough to have a political platform and a responsibility to use it, I think. I think if I'm joined by many, many other voices, 10 becomes 100, becomes 10,000, becomes 50,000 or 100,000, then it becomes a loud voice, one that I feel shouldn't or can't be ignored.
Well, it's certainly getting a big response. Sheriff, thank you again. We'll see what the president says tonight.
Thanks.
Well, you know, this congressman actually called it.
He's going to say, God, there's over 6 million undocumented workers that have been here 10 years or more. And they've established roots in their community.
So
they
what's
have
he going to do?
American citizen wives. They have
You're
American
saying 6
citizen
million
children,
then will be granted.
No,
status
I don't know.
here?
I'm simply saying that
Well,
there,
I think you
there
know.
are
I think
6 million that have been here at least 10 years.
You're tight with the president. You're tight with the White House. So I don't think you just say this stuff out of turn. I mean, have you heard from the White House that it is looking at granting up to 6 million illegals amnesty?
Do not tell your viewing audience that I've heard this from the White House. I have not heard this from the White House. This is what I believe is going to happen. This is what I'm betting is going to happen. And because you and I are friends, I'm sharing with you my thinking.
He doth protest too much. All right, Congressman, I knew you knew. With me now, Illinois Democrat Louis Gutierrez back with me. You knew almost to the exact number back then, didn't you?
I knew there was a number. I used 6 million on your program. It's going to be 5 million people. That's been, I don't think I'm speaking out of line or kind of undercutting the president's announcement tonight. It's been reported by Fox News on repeated occasions.
That makes you a power player here, because you were early on to this, got early wind of this, and methinks that is far from just coincidental being ahead of this. Leaving that aside and owing to your stature, I'd like you to now move forward and think of the reaction, because Republicans are furious. The sheriff, who you might have just caught a little of there, Congressman, he's furious that this is going to make a messier. What do you say?
Here's what I say. The Republican majority in the House of Representatives had an opportunity for 2 years. I know they say, hey, we were never going to adopt the Senate bill. They didn't have to adopt the Senate bill. They could have adopted their own bill. I think Speaker Boehner called the President of the United States. I know Speaker Boehner, you know Speaker Boehner called the President in June and said, despite all your efforts, despite all my best efforts, we're just not going to do anything. And here was the play of the Republican Party.
Well, they couldn't see eye to eye on border security. Wasn't that the issue?
But it didn't matter. The House Republican majority does not take its cue on legislative practice or policy from the President of the United States. They could have presented their ideas, and we know we could have gone under regular order. There was a Senate bill, there was a House bill, they would have gone to conference.
But let's say there was a House bill and it went to the Senate. Given the fact that 300 other pieces of legislation just stopped at Harry Reid's inbox, what's to make you or anyone else think it would have gotten further?
But this one was a priority. I think you and I both agree this one was a priority. The fact is, they did nothing, Neil. Nothing. They never presented a platform.
Why is the president then doing this now? He was so hot to trot to do this. Why not do this in the first 2 years when he had the run of the table, when he had the House going his way, the Senate going his way? Why not then? Why now?
Well, his priority then, it wasn't my priority, was the Affordable Care Act. That was his priority then, and then he took as a second priority immigration.
Well, what makes this a priority now? There's a lot going on in the world now. You have ISIL killing people, beheading people.
But here's what happened.
You have the economy imploding again, right?
There was an election in November of 2012. President won by 5 million votes. He said it's going to be a priority, and he did get it through. He helped shepherd it through the Senate with 68 votes, very bipartisanship. We had Border Patrol. Look, everybody keeps talking about the border. Well, they threw 30,000 additional Border Patrol agents in that bill. The House refused. And I just want to make one point, because everybody keeps talking about securing that border. Why do they always talk about the border between the United States and Mexico? What about the border at LAX, the border at JFK, the border at O'Hare, the border at Miami? That's where 4 million plus undocumented workers entered the United States. But we never talk about that border. I want to secure all borders.
But you talk about how you know, this is the humane and the right thing to do, as you did last time, for these people who are here, who had kids here. Sure. You've heard the argument against it, that this just is a matter of time before the other 7 or 8 illegals that we know of are essentially granted the same freeze in deportations. And people come back and say, whatever your humane argument, have we done anything else to just deal with the porous border? To deal with the fact, whether at airports, whether along the border, people keep coming in. And is there something to be said about people who look at this in countries where they want to leave and come here, that they're actually emboldened to do so now, that this looks like a good deal?
Couple of things. Number one, I'm happy we're talking about borders that isn't just the border between Mexico and the United States.
No, you're not. I mean, if you're happy about it, I haven't heard others in your party happy about talking about borders. It's the only, Neil, it is the only border that Republican candidates to the House and to re-election in the Senate spoke about. They talked about Ebola, they talked about ISIS, and they talked about the porous border. Congressman, I love you dearly, but you're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. Do you think then, can you understand the reluctance a lot of folks have, even within your party, that we're ignoring the sort of like the ticking bomb here, porous border, porous airports, porous everything, and no one is talking about that? We're all actually, hey, give these permanent status to these illegals who are here.
Let me respond this way. Number one, we've never had as many Border Patrol agents as we've had today. We offered 30,000 additional
Well, we've
Border
never
Patrol
had as many illegals as we have today.
The fact is, if you look at the border between Mexico and the United States, it's pretty neutral in terms of people coming and leaving. Number one, but let's
just had 70,000 kids march through the border like it was going into the Poconos.
What the president's going to do, he's going to allow 5 million people to register with the government. Register with the government. Go through a thorough background check at their own expense. Pay taxes, get on the books, and pay any back taxes. You know what? Doing nothing is amnesty. Doing this puts millions of people who are undocumented on the books. And it's a first step. Look, I wish the Republican majority in the House and the Senate would stop complaining and stop whining and start legislating and presenting their views.
Well,
unfortunately,
regardless of your views on that, do you think,
unfortunately,
do you think the well has been poisoned, though, Congressman? Do you think it has been poisoned? Whatever the justification you think for the president, is he destroyed it?
What I believe is the following. We have worked hard to make sure that American citizen children have a mom or a dad, and that spouses of American citizens are sacrosanct. But more importantly, I think the Republican Party knows what unifies them. And what unifies them is being against Barack Obama. What divides them is immigration. We should put not party politics and partisan politics. We should put what's good for America first, and not what unites our party.
But what unifies them is a president ignoring them and ignoring the will of the people from the midterm elections. This goal might be meritorious. The way the president is ramming it through is not.
The Republican Party has 180 days, and I'm going to go to the House floor in January, and I'm going to put up a calendar, and I'm going to say, you have 180 days from today, January 1st, before the executive action takes effect. 180 days.
We'll see.
You can act.
We'll see if they do that.
And
That's a
present
good
legislation.
point. And they shouldn't ignore you, because you have the ear of the president and know everything that he's thinking and going on, as we've proven. So, Luis Gutierrez, very good seeing you again. Thank you.
Hey, Neil, thanks for having me on.
All right. In the meantime, ahead of the president's big speech tonight, wait till you hear what another border sheriff thinks. Paul Biabu joining me live on Fox Biz tonight, right ahead of the president's address. Before the president speaks, this guy's going to want to vent. But